a Maryland Terrapins team that used to be one of the best in the ACC, even winning their first national championship in 1953. But then, just before the 2014 season, they made their move to a bigger, better conference in the Big Ten. But since joining the conference in 2014, they haven't had a winning season in conference play. Now they have had some winning records, even winning 3 straight bowl games, but they have never found the same success that they once had in the ACC. So in this rebuild, we will be taking over this Terrapins team with a fairly bright future, but we're going to try and bring home their first national title since 1953. Now, to start off this rebuild here, we're first going to take a look at the roster that we are given here in our very first season. As in the intro, I talked about the future of this team, but we do have some superstars, seniors who are on the defensive side of the football. Daniel Wingate being the headliner, a 90 overall Mike linebacker, 6'5", 230, one of the best linebackers in the entire Big Ten Conference. As well as a defensive tackle, Javon Parker, up to an 84 overall, also a senior on the defensive side. But in the intro, I said the future of this team was bright for this Maryland Terrapins team, and it starts with the junior redshirt tight end, 87 overall with 86 speed, Dorian Fleming at the tight end position. He's going to be our best returning player as long as he stays, but there is some other players like Michael Hershey at the center spot and Ian Thomas at the defensive tackle spot. But my favorite player on this roster has to be the former 5-star number 1 edge rusher in the class of 2026, Zion Ely. He currently is an 84 overall with 91 speed and elite development. If we are able to retain him, he should easily develop into one of the best edge rushers in the entire country. But that's if we can retain him, because he's likely going to ask for 2, 3, maybe even 400 NIL points if he's looking to enter the transfer portal next season. But we've also got a threat in the backfield, as Dejon Williams is returning to Maryland for his sophomore redshirt season, as he had a solid redshirt freshman season last year. He's up to an 82 overall with 90 speed. But possibly my favorite player behind Zion Ely is the true sophomore quarterback Malik Washington, who's up to an 82 overall with 86 speed at the quarterback position. If he stays, he should lock down that position until he graduates and goes off to the NFL, and should be a huge building block to start off this rebuild. But for the rest of this roster, we've got some young and up-and-coming talent currently in the low 80 overalls, with some high 70 overalls looking to fill out the rest of the starting positions. But now for the second thing that we're going to talk about is our schedule, as we have 3 out-of-conference games to start our season: at home versus an FCS team, at UConn, and then home versus a revamped Virginia Tech team. But then to start off conference play, we've got home versus UCLA, at Nebraska, at number 1 Ohio State, and then home in a rivalry game against Rutgers. But then we have our first bye week of the season, coming back home for Illinois, then heading to Purdue, home versus Wisconsin, and then at 15th ranked USC. But then our final conference game of the season will be home versus 17th ranked Penn State. Likely our last and final game of the season, unless we're able to find 6 wins and get a bowl game. But we are very unlikely to find the Big Ten championship game, and it's almost impossible for this team to find the college football playoffs. But there's always a chance. But now the final thing that we have to talk about is the brand new NIL budget in college football 27. As we started with just over 1,000 points to spend here in season 1, and I've already gone on and spent 300 of it to get 2 new staff members. A 10% reduction on NIL expectations, as I'm looking to bring in as much talent as possible, trying to bring back Zion Ely, Malik Washington, Dejon Williams, anybody who is willing to come back. We need as much of a reduction as we can, because we don't have the biggest budget in all of college football. But I also got a 5% boost to off-season progression, as when we bring back our talent, we need them to become the highest overall they can and continue to boost our rebuild as quickly as possible. If we're looking to win a national championship as fast as possible, and this small boost will help get us there and progress in this rebuild. So that's the starting points of this rebuild. But now we're going to go ahead, scout our first group of recruits, and then head into our very first week where we'll start handing out offers, giving pitches, and then playing our very first games of this rebuild. Now, as we head into our very first week of this rebuild, we're going to go over a few things before we actually jump in and play a game. The first one is our recruiting board for this season, as we don't have many players to target, but at the positions that we need as many players as possible. And for this season, it's 2 receivers, a linebacker, 2 corners, and 3 offensive guards. A couple of 4 stars, mostly 3 stars who are expecting no NIL this season, but it's just a solid building block. The main thing I want to focus on this season is retaining all of our young superstars that are currently on this roster. But now the second thing we have to talk about is on our schedule again. As if you watched my college football 26 rebuilds, we would play 3 regular season games per season and then watch the conference championship games, the bowl games, and the college football playoff games. But in these college football 27 rebuilds, I'm going to make one minor adjustment and I'm going to take off a regular season game. We will only play 2 games per season, with one of those games guaranteed being a rivalry game. And in this first season, it will be week 3 at home versus Virginia Tech. And in our final week, it will be week 13 at home versus 17th ranked Penn State. Just a small adjustment, not playing a third and final game and always getting a rivalry game in there. But the final thing we have to talk about is our goals for this rebuild. If you watch my college football 26 rebuilds, you would know that we had 2 challenges: win a national championship and get a Heisman Trophy. But in these college football 27 rebuilds, I'm going to be completely removing that Heisman challenge, as sometimes it would be too difficult to win a Heisman based on your playbook and if they would spread the ball around to multiple receivers, get the running game going. If there was a big difference in your playbook, sometimes you couldn't win a Heisman. So we're going to completely remove that challenge. And the second thing we're going to remove is our restriction. In my college football 26 rebuilds, there would always be a restriction of me having 6 years to get a rebuild done. But in these 27 rebuilds, I am going to remove that restriction and we will finish every single rebuild. If it takes me 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, however long it takes me, we are going to win a national championship with the team that I am rebuilding. So for this Maryland team, at some point in this video, you will see this Terps team raising the national championship trophy. That's the final thing we have. So now we're going to sim on to week 3, where we'll play our first game of this rebuild against Virginia Tech. Now, as we head into this week 3 game here against Virginia Tech, before we jump into this game, we're going to take a look at our first 2 games. As we did get 2 wins, much different results, as we only gave up 6 points in both of those games. But against the FCS team, we would win 41-6, and then at UConn, we would win 14-6. Starting off with 2 wins in out of conference play, a usual thing for Maryland before they fall off in conference play. But now we've got to jump into this game to see if we can get our third and final out of conference win against Virginia Tech. First and goal from the 9. For the first points of the game, it's a handoff up the middle and into the end zone, and that's the first touchdown that this Maryland defense has given up on this young season. We'll come out on 4th and 8 to try and get on the scoreboard for the first time with a 43-yard field goal. 4th and 19, and Virginia Tech forced to take a field goal to give them their touchdown lead. First and goal from the 5. To start this fourth quarter, we're looking to tie this game up. A handoff to Williams. Williams cuts all the way to the right side, and he finds the end zone, and we finally tied this game back up at 10. After the face mask penalty, it's a 1st and 10 as Virginia Tech's already in the red zone. A handoff to the running back. We can't even get to him. He's got space all the way on the right side into the end zone. And it took all but just a couple minutes, and Virginia Tech has their touchdown lead once again. We'll come out on 1st and 10 for Virginia Tech knee. We'll lose, unfortunately. The first game that we jump into, unfortunately, ends in a loss, as our third down defense was horrendous that entire game. Virginia Tech took advantage of it. The turnovers from us, the fumbles, everything else just went wrong for us. As 89 yards for Hawkins on the ground and a touchdown ends up being the difference maker, as we'll lose our first game that we get to jump into, and we'll end out of conference play 2-1 heading into the midpoint of the season, where I'll give another update. Now, as we head into week 8 here, we are currently 3-4 after going 1-3 in our most recent games. And that's because after that Virginia Tech game, we would have one more home game, losing 28-20 against UCLA. But then in week 5, we would have our most impressive win of the season so far, as we would win 37-34 against Nebraska. But then back-to-back losses, as we would lose at 4th-ranked Ohio State 33-13, and then at home versus Rutgers in a 36-33 game. So now heading into our bye week, we're 3-4 with 5 more games to play, with 6th-ranked USC being our toughest game on the schedule. But we do have to play at home versus Penn State in our final rivalry game of the season. But that's later in the week. And now the second thing we have to talk about is our recruiting, as we have landed our first set of recruits so far in this rebuild. So far, we have a verbal commit from this 3-star receiver, Max Kellum, who's likely to hard commit either next week or 2 weeks from now. But we do have our first hard commit, as Lynn June, a 92 speed 3-star corner, has decided to land with the Terps. It's a huge start for our very first class, as we do have a couple of 4-stars who are interested in us, with some 3-stars who are likely to follow. It's a huge step in the right direction for our first AD expectation, as they do expect us to land a top 75 class. But we won't know that until the end of the season, so we're going to go ahead, sim on to the final week of this regular season, where we'll play against Penn State. Now, after simming through the midpoint of the season, we have reached our final regular season game against now 24th ranked 7-4 Penn State. But for us, we're currently 5-6 on this season, as if we get a win against Penn State, we'll have a bowl game, and if we lose, we're done for the year. As after that bye week, we would have a home game against Illinois, win 27-23, and then get another win the very next week, winning at Purdue 53-27. But back-to-back losses have put us in this situation, as we lost 17-9 against Wisconsin and 34-17 against 7th-ranked USC. So we can seal our fate here with this final game. If we want a bowl game to try and get back into our winning ways, we have to win against Penn State. But with these couple of wins in the past couple of weeks, we have landed extra recruits, as we have landed our first 4-stars of this rebuild, starting with 4-star receiver Stephen East, as well as his 3-star receiver Max Kellum, who landed with us earlier at about the bye week. But we also have a verbal commit from this 4-star linebacker Boatwright, but it looks like Florida and Illinois still have a chance to get him back. We also landed a 4-star corner, this 3-star corner earlier in the week, and then this 3-star guard. That's all we've landed so far, but we're still trying to land this 3-star guard, this 4-star safety, this 3-star athlete, and 2 4-star offensive linemen. Putting in a ton of our budget here, but this will likely be the last of our spending in the recruiting class, as I'm still looking to retain all of our talent in the transfer portal. But now we've got to jump into this game to see if we can get our 6th win and lock up a possible bowl game spot against Penn State. 3rd and 8 for Penn State. Trying to kick him off the field, as Rocco Beck's going to keep it. He's going up the middle. He's got a lot of running room as he jukes to the right side. He's going to go all the way to the end zone for a long rushing touchdown to get Penn State on the board first. 3rd and 1 from the 28. A handoff. Smith, we get a block. Smith to the left side. Smith looking for a block. He's going to get in, go all the way to the end zone to tie this game up at 7. Come out here on 4th and 7. Let's take a chip shot field goal to give us our first lead of this ball game. We'll come out here on 2nd and 10 for what should be another chip shot field goal, this time to give us a 6-point lead before the end of the half. 2nd and goal for Penn State from the 1. Looking for the touchdown to get their first lead since that first touchdown. As it looks like they're motioning everybody inside. Hanson up the middle. Hanson going to find the edge and find the end zone. And a PAT will give Penn State a 1-point lead. 2nd and 6 as we're back inside the red zone. Dropping back. A very quick ball out to Webb. Webb burns his man. Webb looking for the end zone, and he'll find it. And now we just need a 2-point conversion to give us a 7-point lead against Penn State. We'll come out for the 2-point try. Trusting Malik Washington and his arm as we'll go to the tight end. It's Dorian Fleming who secures it to give us our 7-point lead. 1st and 10, and it looks like Penn State might try and bully their way up the middle. He's going to turn around. It's play action, taking a deep shot. That's their tight end inside the 5, inside the 1, and to the end zone. And it looks like we're going to have a tie game at 21. 1st and 10 with about 1:10 left in this game. A team's going to have to start using timeouts, and I'm hoping it's not us. As they're going to go with a motion, a slant inside, breaking a tackle inside the 5, and Penn State's back into the end zone to take a touchdown lead here with about 1 minute left. We'll come out here for a Penn State knee. We were so close to getting our first ranked upset win of the season, but Penn State takes it down in the fourth quarter, 28-21. Our season will unfortunately come to an end here as we end the first season 5-7, missing out on a bowl game by just one win. As Rocco Becht really took over in the fourth quarter, ended with 266 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. But now that our regular season's over, we have to head into our very first transfer portal. Now, after losing to Penn State in our final game of the season to knock us out of a bowl appearance, we have our biggest point in this season so far, as after throwing every single penny we had, all of our life savings, all the pennies we found in the couch cushions, we have convinced both Malik Washington and Zion Ely to stay. 2 of our biggest fish on both sides of the ball, as even though Zion Ely tried to leave, we somehow got the 1 in a million chance of convincing him to stay. But we can only throw money at so many players, as unfortunately we're going to lose some big names like Hershey, Thomas, Williams, Stewart, and a guy that I was excited for, Zamir Smith. They're going off to the transfer portal, and we even lost some extra backup options, some freshmen who are likely going to take over. But we also have some graduates. None of these guys are real starters. We lost our punter, who is one of our better players, but our best player, who we're going to miss a lot, is Daniel Wingate, our best player on this roster, 89 overall, likely going to get drafted, increase our pro potential in the linebacker room. So a big loss there, but now we're going to look to replace it as we're going to sim just one more week and head into our very first transfer portal in this rebuild. Now, after simming just 1 week to the transfer portal, we have set up our board full of 21 total recruits. But before that, we have landed our first 6 high school prospects, and we're looking for some more to land in the next couple of weeks. But for the transfer portal, like I said, we have 21 total recruits, starting with a quarterback, 2 running backs, a receiver, 4 offensive linemen, 2 edge rushers, 3 defensive tackles, 4 linebackers, 4 cornerbacks, and 2 free safeties to round out our board. With the biggest name coming at the Mike linebacker position, it will be a transfer from Georgia, Justin Williams, the Mike linebacker, 6'2", with a ton of production in the SEC last season, looking to replace the productivity that Wingate had for our middle linebacker position. He went off to the NFL, and Justin Williams is looking to follow in his path as we're throwing 250 NIL points at him, hoping to possibly take him from his number one option in Ohio State. It'll leave us with just under 600 NIL points if we're able to land everybody on our board, but the only way to find that out is by simming to our final transfer portal week to see if I can land everybody on this board. Now, after simming through 4 weeks of the transfer portal, I ended up landing aboard 3 recruits shy of a full board. With the first bunch of recruits coming from high school, even 6 of them being 4 stars. A 4-star receiver, 2 4-star linemen, a 4-star linebacker, and 2 4-star DBs, as well as some 3 stars as well. But the big thing is the transfer portal. We went all out in the transfer portal and ended up landing a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, 4 offensive linemen, 2 edge rushers, 3 defensive tackles, 4 linebackers, 3 corners, and 2 safeties. And this entire class ended up landing us inside the top 20 in just season 1 at number 19 with 7 4-stars and 25 3-stars, spending over 1,200 NIL points. But I think it's huge for this program and taking a step towards the top of the Big Ten. But now we're going to go ahead and sim on to season 2. Now, as we head into season 2 here, we're heading into the season with some higher expectations now that this team has been upgraded and hopefully we can make a bowl game. But one thing I want to point out heading into the season is if you look at the top right of the screen, we only have 310 NIL points, which may seem slightly confusing because if you remember at the end of season 1, we had 550. But as we take a look at this roster, one of the craziest things happened that I forgot to tell you guys about. When we simmed to week 2, I noticed that Jordan Davison didn't have any offers from top schools. So I started going after him, but unfortunately in the final week, he ended up committing to Iowa, so I took him off my board before showing you guys. But it seems here that he ended up leaving Iowa and joining this Terps program with the 240 NIL that I offered him. So he fits into this running back room as the best player on our roster, tied with our best tight end, Dorian Fleming. Both of them up to an 88 overall, with our best defensive player being Justin Williams, the transfer from Georgia. He's an 87 overall, should be another game wrecker up the middle. But other than those guys, we've got 2 more playmakers, 2 wide receivers above an 84 overall, and Durr Jr. and Gladding. They should be great for Malik Washington to throw the ball to. But once again, Zion Neely returned as well. He still has elite development. He now has gold pocket disruptor. He does unfortunately stay at an 84 overall, but we increased his run blocking and pass rushing a ton this offseason. But for the rest of this roster, some low 80 overall should fill out the rest of the starting lineup, and maybe some high 70 overall should squeak in, as this team is now up to an 86 overall. We should now be a contender in the Big Ten, but now we have to take a look at the schedule that we've been given here in Season 2, as it seems like we're going to start with a conference game at Washington in Week 1, before our second game at Virginia Tech this year, and then home versus Cal will be our second out-of-conference game before 2 conference games at Northwestern and home versus 11th-ranked USC. Then our final conference game will be in Week 6 at home versus Coastal Carolina before our final group of conference games at 12th-ranked Iowa, at 17th-ranked Penn State, home versus Purdue, home versus Minnesota, home versus 7th-ranked Oregon heading into our final bye week, where we'll play at Rutgers in Week 13 in a rivalry game. And for this season, once again, we're playing 2 rivalry games. It will be Virginia Tech once again, try and get our revenge at their place this year, and then a rivalry game. We're going to switch it up from Penn State this year, and we're going to play in Week 13 once again, play at Rutgers. 2 winnable games. We need to get our revenge against Virginia Tech, and we need to win a rivalry game this year. But now the final thing we have to talk about is our staff. As nothing has changed from last year, we're keeping our bronze tier assistant coach. He will give us a 10% reduction on NIL expectations once again and a 5% boost in off-season progression. So nothing changes there. But now we're going to go ahead, sim on to week 1, where we'll set up our board, and I'll show you guys what recruits we're going after here in season 2. Now, as we head into our first week of season 2 here, we only have to take a look at our recruiting board this week. And in this season, I'm only going after 3 stars so far. Looking for the gems, and I'm going to wait for the later half of this season to start going after 4 stars. But for now, we have a 3-star athlete, a 3-star gem tight end, a 3-star guard, 2 3-star gem defensive tackles, a 3-star will linebacker, and then our first commit, an insta commit, a 3-star Sam linebacker in Jake Johns. Likely to be a depth piece, but he is a lurking linebacker with a decent amount of speed of 82. He might be able to turn into something for us, but then to round out our board, we have 2 3-star corners. Nothing much, but it should get the job done as we look to land all of those commits. But now we have to sim through this game against Washington on to next week where we'll play our game against Virginia Tech. Now, after simming just 1 week to our rivalry game against Virginia Tech, we did end up getting a win at Washington in week 1. A pretty solid game. We would beat them pretty badly, 35-14, a 3-touchdown win. We were just better in every phase of the game. More rushing yards, more passing yards, better turnovers, everything you could have asked for our very first game of season 2. But with no updates in recruiting, nothing else to go over, we're going to jump into this game to see if we can get our revenge against Virginia Tech, this time at their place. We'll come out on 4th and 9 and take a chip shot field goal, about 27 yards out to get us on the board first. On 4th and 6, Virginia Tech looks to tie this game. On 4th and 7, Virginia Tech will take another field goal, this time to give them a 3-point lead. 3rd and 2, nearly 10 seconds left. We're dropping back to pass. Going over the middles, we should have Dorian Fleming. He's inside the 5, into the end zone for our very first touchdown of the game with 7 seconds left in this first half. On 4th and goal, Virginia Tech forced to take a field goal. On 4th and 7, Virginia Tech's 4th field goal of the game gives them a 2-point lead. 1st and 10. Virginia Tech looks to be sending the house, but we're still going to go up the middle. Davison has a lane. Davison to the 5. Davison to the end zone to give us a lead before the end of this 30 seconds of this game. 3rd and 9 with 9 seconds left. They're sending everybody deep. Knowing they're running out of time, he's stepping up, scrambling. He's taken down. 1 second, they're trying to hurry up, and the game is over. A stressful end to that game. 4 field goals for Virginia Tech, but our defense was fantastic to keep him out of the end zone. And the newcomer, Jordan Davison, with our 1 touchdown on the ground. A huge game from him. We're back in the win column once again against Virginia Tech. 2 straight wins to start our season. But now we're going to head to the midpoint of the game against Penn State, where I'll give you an update to see how our season is going. Now, as we hit the midpoint of season 2 here, we are blowing by expectations that I had for us this season, as we are inside the top 25 for the first time this rebuild with a near perfect 6-1 record. And we even have a top 5 upset on our hands. But after that Virginia Tech game, we would dismantle both Cal and Northwestern 44-0 and 56-10. But then our top 5 upset win would be at home versus USC, giving them their only loss on the season, 21-20. Then another blowout as we would win 52-0 against Coastal Carolina, giving us our second shutout in just a few weeks. But unfortunately, our first loss came last week to a now 25th ranked Iowa team, who is only 4-3 on the season, but they would beat us 36-30. So now heading into this rivalry game against Penn State, we could have a chance at the Big Ten championship game, a turnaround that I was not even expecting at all. But it seems like all those wins have been good enough for some recruits to commit, as we have landed a 3-star athlete. We're currently in a battle for a 3-star guard, but both 3-star gem defensive tackles, both linebackers, and both corners have committed to the Terps. Off to a fantastic start this season, so we're guaranteed a bowl game at the least. But now we could get the Big Ten championship on our hands if we're able to win out the rest of the season. So now we're going to sim on to our final rivalry game of the season. It will be against Rutgers. Now, as we head into our final regular season game of season 2, we will jump into this game and play at Rutgers. But in the past couple of weeks, we've put ourselves in a decent spot. Not a great spot. We've lost one game since that update, as we would destroy Penn State at Penn State, get a nice home win against Purdue, and then a 10-point win at home versus Minnesota. But unfortunately, before our bye week, we would lose at home 42-40 against now 11th ranked Oregon. But the way the conference standings currently set up, we would need a lot of things to go our way to make the Big Ten championship. Currently, Ohio State, UCLA, and Oregon are all 7-1 in conference play, as us, Indiana, and USC are 6-2 in conference play. So we would need a lot of teams to lose, and we would have to win if we want a chance at getting into the conference championship game. But the other thing is recruiting. Out of the 11 players on our board, 9 of them are committed. I showed you guys most of them. I don't believe anybody else has committed since then, but we do have this free safety and this 4-star quarterback all in the top 5, currently number 1 on their board. But now, we've got to jump into this game to see if we can take down our rivals Rutgers and possibly find ourselves in the Big Ten championship. First and goal from the 5. Up the middle with Davison. Davison bouncing off tackles and running every single play on that drive. Finds us in the end zone for the first touchdown of the game. First and goal from the 4. We're dropping back. A slant over the middle of the field. It's White. White hauls it in for our second touchdown of this first half, and our lead becomes 14-0. First and 10 for Rutgers. A delayed handoff up the middle, but they find a ton of space. A huge juke to the outside. He's across midfield, and somehow he's going to go all the way to the end zone as Rutgers cuts our lead in half. First and 10 from the Rutgers 14. Going to motion Fleming, but we're going to hand it off to Davison. We get a beautiful block. Davison inside the 5, breaking a tackle into the end zone for another rushing touchdown, and our lead is back to 14. Second and goal from the 1 for our 4th touchdown of the first half, and it's the backup Howard to find the end zone, and our lead might become too much for Rutgers to come back. 4th and goal from the 2. To try and get another rushing touchdown, we're going up the middle this time with the 3rd string, and he's going to find the end zone to give us our 5th touchdown of the game. First and 10 with about 30 seconds left in this 3rd quarter. Play action, dropping back, immediately scrambles out of the pocket, and he breaks the first tackle, breaks another tackle, and he's going to go all the way for an 89-yard Rutgers touchdown. 2 long touchdowns for them, gives them their 14 points so far. 3rd and goal from the 1. To put our stamp on this game, to officially put an end to Rutgers, and it's Davison for another rushing touchdown, as this will likely end Rutgers' game. 3rd and goal from the 6. After the Rutgers fumble, we'll have one more play. Up the middle, it's going to be Davison, and we're going to end this game with a rushing touchdown. What else would we do? It's Davison. That's his 4th rushing touchdown of the game, and a stamp on a beautiful season. 10-2 to end our regular season. As now we'll have a bowl game to end our season. We might have the conference championship game, but now we have to sim on to see what we'll be playing in. Now, as we head into our bowl game this season, I don't know how, but we are in the college football playoffs. One of the biggest turnarounds. I can't say the biggest because Indiana happened a couple years ago, but we will be traveling to 7th ranked Oklahoma. But like I said, I don't know how we made it here, as we were ranked 13th before we played Rutgers, and we were ranked 13th after we played Rutgers. But I guess some conference championship games really had a big impact on the playoff standings, so now we're in. But I want to take a look at the stats for this season and the big turnaround that this team had, as bringing back Malik Washington was a great idea. 3,300 yards, 25 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. A great season through the air for him, but even on the ground, bringing in Jordan Davison after he left Iowa was a huge difference maker for us, as he went for over 1,015 touchdowns on the ground. And even his backup Iverson Howard went for 588 yards on the ground and 7 rushing touchdowns. Great for us. On the defensive side of things, we had a ton of guys who had big seasons. The tackle leaders was Ricardo Cooper at corner, but the big thing for us was bringing back Zion Ely. He had the most TFLs and sacks on the team with 17 TFLs and 14 and a half sacks. Zaire Mathis and Bryce Jenkins also had above 5 sacks, but Ely was the main difference maker. Hopefully we can bring him back again. But with nothing else to really go over, we've got to jump into this game to see if we can win our very first bowl week of this rebuild against Oklahoma. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 for Oklahoma, who's currently down by 4 points, and they're dropping back to pass on the first play. Stepping up, going deep over the middle of the field, and that ball's broken up. Our defense has been on point so far, giving up just a field goal on the last drive and needing another stop to advance us in the second round of the college football playoffs. As he's stepping up, going over the middle of the field, he's got an open receiver to the Terps 43. And it looks like Oklahoma's going to hurry things up here, as we scored all of our points in the first 3 quarters. Been shut out here in this 4th quarter. They're going with a handoff up the middle, spinning out of the first tackle, just shy of that first down mark. But they'll come back to the line with a 2nd and inches as we're approaching the 2-minute warning, but both teams have all 3 timeouts. It's a very quick pitch out to the right side. That's a first down. Did he step out of bounds? As it looks like it will stop the clock as Oklahoma gets inside the Terps 25. 1st and 10. Play action. Dropping back. Zion Ely just misses him, trying to find some space, and Ely ends up catching up to him. It's a tackle for a loss. 2nd and 12 now, as we'll hit the 2-minute warning. But we'll come out here. Oklahoma needs a touchdown. We need to hold them to less. Another pass for Oklahoma. Stepping all the way back. He's going to step up instead. He's got a lane to take off and run. He'll slide just shy of the first down, and Bentley has him 3rd and 3. And there's the first timeout for either team. Now 3rd and 3. The Terps need a stop. Oklahoma needs a first. A very quick ball over the middle of the field. He's shy of a first, and it's 4th and 1 for Oklahoma. Just a yard to go. They're going up the middle on a handoff. That's a first down, finding some extra yards as he's inside the 10, down to the 7, and there's another Oklahoma timeout. It looks like this game's going to end with a Sooners drive, as either it's going to be a touchdown or a Maryland stop. 80 seconds left on this clock. We need somebody to come up huge. As we're sending pressure, they're going to dump it out to the left side, and we'll get out there for a tackle. But now it's 2nd and goal. They cut the yardage in half. Another pass, running out of time as we send pressure. We'll get there for a sack. It's Taiwan Christopher with a sack. His first of the game, and the clock continues to run, as that's our 4th. But the clock continues to run. Empty backfield for Oklahoma. Stepping up. He's hit at the line. It's overthrown. And it's 4th and goal. Either Oklahoma takes the lead with a touchdown, or their season ends and we advance in the college football playoffs. It's a pass, dropping all the way back. He's hit at the line. It's broken up in the end zone, and the Terps are going to get a first-round college football playoff win. They don't have enough time to stop the clock, and not enough timeouts. Only 23 seconds. We're going to motion inside, hand off to Davison. He gets blown up. They call a timeout, but that doesn't matter. We should be able to just take a knee without going into the end zone, but it looks like we're going to hand it off. No fumbles, and we win this game and advance in the college football playoffs. A handoff to Davison. He holds on to it. He's pulled down, and we're going to come back to the line, but we should not snap this no matter what. 2 seconds, 1 second. The game is over. We win our first round matchup. A crazy turnaround for this Maryland Terrapins team as we win a bowl game. Our first college football playoff win as Dorian Fleming had 4 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. A huge matchup as now we'll go on to the second round and play a team that got a bye in the first. Now, after beating Oklahoma in the first round, we have to take on Miami in the second. They're currently number 2 in the entire country, went a perfect 9-0 in conference play, and will easily be our toughest opponent we've played all season. But with nothing else to go over, we're just going to jump into this game to see if we can get our second straight upset, this time against the Hurricanes. Now we'll jump into this game with about 2:30 left on this clock. A tie ball game at 24, but Miami's got the ball across midfield. They're going to go with a handoff up the middle, a cut to the right side, but we're able to push them back. Brown only gets 3 yards, and we're closing in on this 2-minute warning. 3, 2, 1, and we'll hit the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes to go in a tie ball game in the Peach Bowl. Can Maryland get their second college football playoff upset of the season as they're dropping back to pass? Going over the middle of the field, that's a first down, and they're well within field goal range. Darian Mensah with 3 touchdowns through the air, making it tough for this Maryland defense. As we're able to blow him up in the backfield, Pringle goes backwards for a loss of 4, and it's going to make the field goal a little bit tougher. Put Miami in a tough spot as they're dropping back to pass. No team using timeouts. They'll go over the middle to Malachi Toney as he's just shy of a first down. There's the first timeout for the Terps. Somebody's got to make a play on defense. Somebody's got to make a play on the field goal try if it gets to that point. But Miami's going to drop back once again. Mensah looking to make a play. He'll go underneath. That's a wide open receiver inside the 5. And that just made things a lot tougher for the Terps, as we're going to need a miracle at this point. 58 seconds left, 1 timeout in our pocket. Miami is likely going to try and hold themselves out of the end zone, but instead they're going to go for it. Over the middle, it's a touchdown, and that could be good for us. It's unfortunate that it's a touchdown, but it gives us 55 seconds to work with 1 timeout. Malik Washington is going to have to take us all the way down the field with no mistakes. As now it's a 31-24 game, just under a minute left, and we're going to need a solid return to start it. It's going to be Shakir who's going to take it out, and I don't even know if he got across the 15. He will. Get to the 16, we'll start our drive. 84 yards in 51 seconds, and Miami's sending everybody deep. No deep balls over the top as Washington is dropping back to pass. Going to the sideline, Miami's sending pressure, and we got to the 20, but we need to hurry things up. 3 touchdowns for Malik through the air. Not enough to get it done so far. As we're waiting for too long, we need to get the snap off. Washington steps up, goes underneath. That's a first down. It should stop the clock for a little bit, but instead we'll use our final timeout. That leaves us with 30 seconds, 73 yards to tie this game up. Play action, stepping up. Washington's going to take off. He's going to dive, but we've got to get back to the line. Everybody's got to hurry back up as we're going to try and spike this ball with 18. We'll get it down. Still 67 yards to the end zone. Malik Washington trying to direct some traffic here as we're going to need a deep ball. Washington stepping up, taking off and running, and what are we doing? We're going to take a loss. It's only a yard gain, but we've got to hurry up, and everybody's got to go to the end zone. Back to back scrambles from Washington, as we're going to go to the sideline instead, and that's just the AI not doing its best work, but it's unfortunate. We'll take the loss to Miami in the second round in the Peach Bowl, but it's a huge season for us. We might have not ended the way we wanted to, but even though we brought back Washington and Ely, this team improved massively. 11-3 to end our season, way farther than what I expected to be at this point in season 2. But now we've got to head on to our transfer portal to see if we can make this team even better and turn it into a national title contender. Now, after losing to Miami in the college football playoffs, we have simmed on to just before the transfer portal, where we have a couple big names leaving the program. The first one being our superstar running back Jordan Davison, who's going off to the NFL, likely projected in the third round. But the biggest loss, after convincing him in year 1, unfortunately, Zion Ely will be departing from the program. But even though we lost Zion Ely, we were able to convince Zaire Mathis, Isaiah Brooks, Nick Blaziken, and Nasir Taylor to stay. I would have liked to keep Zion Ely over all of them, but unfortunately, your brand exposure just isn't good enough for Zion Ely. But other than those guys, we had a couple guys get drafted. It looks like Gladding is going to be going in the 5th round, Fleming going to be going in the 4th round, and I don't think anybody else is going to get drafted. Is actually, I forgot about Justin Williams. He looks to be going in the 2nd round, following in the footsteps of Wingate. So a huge loss in Zion Ely, a couple of other huge losses in Fleming and Williams. But now we've got to head onto the transfer portal to see if we can fill in those positions and find new superstars. Now, as we head into the transfer portal here, I've already gone on and set up my board, but before that, I want to take a look at who got drafted. As our pro potential continues to go up, as Justin Williams goes in the 2nd, Jordan Davison goes in the 3rd, Dorian Fleming also goes in the 3rd, and then Abdul Rahim Gladden goes in the 5th. 4 players getting drafted, a great sign for us and our pro potential. But now, for our transfer portal board, as we're still going after this 4-star quarterback in the recruiting class. But for our transfer guys, we're going after a quarterback, 3 receivers, a tight end, 2 offensive linemen, 2 edge rushers, 3 linebackers, a corner, and 2 safeties. With the biggest positions being this 4-star corner, this 5-star edge rusher to try and replace Zion Ely, our 4-star offensive lineman, 4-star tight end, 2 4-star receivers as well. Try and bring in more playmakers, more impact players to try and build up this team and give us national championship contender hopes. But now we're going to go ahead, sim on to the final week of the transfer portal to see if I can land every single recruit. Now, after going through the 4 weeks of the transfer portal, I ended up landing 25 of 26 total prospects on my board, with the first bunch coming from high school and a 4-star quarterback, a 3-star athlete, 3-star tight end, 3-star guard, 2 3-star defensive tackles, 2 3-star linebackers, 2 3-star corners, and a 3-star free safety. But the big fish on this board came from the transfer portal in a running back, 3 receivers, 2 offensive linemen, 2 edge rushers, 3 linebackers, a corner, 2 free safeties. Unfortunately, we lost his 3-star tight end as he committed to us in week 3, but ended up decommitting. I don't know why he ended up decommitting, but he did. He's going off to Clemson, but they still haven't given him an offer, so there's a chance he could come back, just like Jordan Davison did. But this class ended up landing us a pretty high spot in the Big Ten. It was 20th in the entire country and 7th overall in the Big Ten, with 1 5-star, 5 4-stars, and 19 3-stars, 25 total players. So it's still a solid start. Hopefully, this is enough to get us into national title contender rankings. But now we're going to go ahead and head on to season 3. Now, as we head into season 3, we are starting this season inside the top 10 of preseason rankings at number 8 in the entire country. And it's for great reason, as this roster is up to a 92 overall with a 94 overall offense and a 91 overall defense. But even though our defense is a little bit worse, the best players on this roster are coming from the defensive line, as Bryce Jenkins is up to an 89 overall and Zaire Mathis is up to an 88 overall. They should be great in not only the run game, but trying to sack the quarterback when he drops back to pass. But the deepest position group on this roster is easily the wide receiver room, as Tank Hawkins is up to an 87 overall, as well as Norrell White, and Emmanuel Taylor is up to an 86 overall. But the wide receiver one is likely to be Tank Hawkins, as he has 95 speed and is coming off an 1,000-yard season. But if we can't get things going in the passing game, we have a running back who's up to an 86 overall with 90 speed. He should be able to make things easier for our passing game by getting outside on the ground and going for long touchdown runs. But the man who will be manning the offense is Malik Washington, once again coming in for his final season, his senior season, as he's up to an 85 overall, and I'm hoping he can take a step forward and really turn us into national title contenders here in this season. But as for the rest of this roster, some mid-80 overalls, a ton of 85s and 84s, with some low 80 overalls are likely to sit the bench this season, and the high 70 overalls likely won't see the field unless we're in blowout games. But now for the schedule that we'll have to take on here in this third season. As it's a little bit different, we'll get a week 0 game at home versus Virginia Tech once again. But then we have at Michigan in week 1 before going home for Delaware, and then at New Mexico State in week 3, heading into our first bye week of the season. But then in week 5, we've got at 10th ranked UCLA, heading home for Rutgers, and home for Washington in week 7. Then at 11th ranked Indiana, and home for Northwestern, and home for 4th ranked Ohio State, heading into our final bye week of the season, where we'll have at Minnesota and home versus Michigan State to round out our season. And in this third season, we will be playing Virginia Tech once again at home in week 0, and then at home once again against 4th ranked Ohio State in week 10. Getting one of the best teams in the entire country in our schedule, trying to play them to see if this team has what it takes to go to the top of college football. But now one other change that I've made is in our staff. We haven't managed much in our staff, but we did change our facilities a little bit, as I did increase our facility grade to make it a B+, and hopefully our progression will be a little bit better this season. But that's everything for the preseason. We're now going to scout our first set of recruits, give them their offers, and then head on to week 0, where we'll play against Virginia Tech. Now, as we head into week 0 here, we will jump in and play this game against Virginia Tech to see if we can go 2-1 in this series, in this rebuild so far. But we first have to take a look at our recruiting for this season, as we were given about 1,200 recruiting points to go throughout this season. And with a ton of superstar players leaving, we need to bring in the next group of superstars for this Terps program. So I've dumped nearly 700 points in for an athlete quarterback, 2 receivers, 2 offensive linemen, 3 defensive tackles, a Mike linebacker, and a 5-star cornerback. A ton of NIL points going all over the place, needing to bring in superstars, all 4 stars with an extra 5-star to end out the board. So we have a lot to earn throughout the season, but we also could lose a lot in this season. But now we're going to jump into this game to see if we can start this season 3 1-0 against Virginia Tech. 3rd and goal from the 4. Needing to cash in on this play as we'll go with a handoff. Nicely finds the lane, nicely has blocks, and he will find the end zone for our first touchdown of the game. And we'll go up 7-0 in this rivalry game. 3rd and 2 from the 29. Bringing a receiver inside, as it looks like it's going to be a keeper with the quarterback trying to get out. Throws it up there. That's broken up and intercepted by Carey off the deflection. And the first turnover of the game goes to the Terps. 2nd and goal from the 1. Trying to bully our way up the middle. Find the second rushing touchdown of this first half, and we'll find it, as it's nicely for his second And us, we have our 14-point lead. 2nd and 3 as we've got to hurry things up here. Trying to find the end zones. We're going over the middle of the field. A beautiful ball. That's Taylor. Taylor to the 5. Taylor to the end zone to give us our first passing touchdown of the game and a 21-0 lead. On 4th and 4, the field goal will get Virginia Tech on the board. Come out here on 4th and 4 to take a 58-yard field goal. Does O'Hare have it in his leg? As we'll send it deep, and that is right down the middle. We'll come out on 3rd and goal for the final play. Trying to get the snap off, but we will not. The clock will hit triple zeros. We'll get a nice 24-3 win. A huge performance from our defense. And even on the offensive side of the ball, the only quarter we didn't score in was the 4th. As the transfer from Coastal Carolina, Dominic Nicely goes for 88 and 2 touchdowns. Our passing yards were nearly 200, as well as our rushing yards, a huge momentum shift. As now we have a game against Michigan, but we'll sim to the midpoint of the season to see if we can keep our winning streak alive. Now, as we head to the midway point of this season, we are currently ranked at the number 4 team in the entire country with a perfect 6-0 record. As after that win in week 0, we would dismantle Michigan at the Big House 45-5. And then 2 out of conference games at home versus Delaware winning 45-20, and then at New Mexico State 37-3. Before our first bye week of the season, heading to our rest of conference schedule, where we have at UCLA 31-20, and then our closest game of the season so far, 25-22 in a rivalry win at home versus Rutgers. So now heading into the rest of the season, we've got home versus Washington at 5th-ranked Indiana, home versus Northwestern before our final game that we'll jump into and play at now 13th-ranked Ohio State, who must have lost their most recent game as they were number 1 for most of this season. So a big line of games coming up. But for us in recruiting, it's 50-50 on how it's gone so far, as unfortunately we've been locked out by both an athlete and a right tackle due to playing style. But we have had a verbal commit in this 4-star receiver. Unfortunately, we're also losing some battles as this 4-star gem tackle looks to be going to Oregon. But we also have a battle for these 2 defensive gem tackles, and we have landed our first commit in a 5-star corner, the number 2 corner in the entire country. We threw the bag at him and ended up winning on a visit in week 6, but that Tier 5 pipeline helped us tremendously in this recruiting battle. So our very first recruit will stay in the DMV, but now we've got to sim on just a few more weeks and play our final game of the season against Ohio State. Now, as we head into our biggest week of this season 3 here, we are now ranked at the number 2 team in the entire country with a perfect 9-0 record. As after that last update where we had just squeaked out a win against Rutgers, we would squeak out another 3-point win at home versus Washington the very next week. But then back-to-back blowouts as we would destroy a ranked Indiana team 42-25, and then at home versus Northwestern 38-20. So now heading into this Ohio State game, they are currently 8th in the entire country, and a win here could possibly give us the number 1 spot in the entire country, as we are currently behind the team that we beat in our college football playoff game in Oklahoma. But these 9 straight wins have helped us land even more recruits. Even though we've lost a ton of battles, we have gotten 2 4-star receivers, as well as a 4-star gem defensive tackle, a 4-star Mike linebacker, and like I said earlier, this 5-star corner committed a couple of weeks ago. But now we're in some extra battles. We're going after this 3-star athlete. I like his stats. He's likely going to switch from a linebacker, but he should be pretty solid if we are able to land him. We also have this 4-star gem defensive tackle, this 4-star guard. We're finally back into the battle for this 4-star gem tackle as we finally got above his C+ playing style. Still looking to get back inside the recruiting battle for this 4-star athlete, but nobody's given him an offer yet, so we still have a chance. But now we're going to jump into this game to see if we can get our biggest win so far this season against 8th ranked Ohio State. Second and 8 from the 27 for the Buckeyes. Just trying to avoid a 3-and-out as they'll bring a receiver inside. They're dropping back to pass, trying to roll out. Henderson's going to fumble the football. It's picked up by Zaire Mathis. And on the second play of the game, we'll get a fumble return for a touchdown to give the Terps a 7-0 lead. Third and goal from the 4 to give us a 2-touchdown lead as we're dropping back to pass. Trusting the slant over the middle. It's Emmanuel Taylor into the end zone for a touchdown. And our lead is now 14-0 in this first quarter. On 4th and inches, the Buckeyes won't take any chances. They'll just get on the scoreboard with 3 points. Second and 2 from the 26. We're looking to keep the Buckeyes out of the end zone once again, but instead they're going to get beautiful blocks. He's found the edge, he's found the end zone, and Ohio State is back within a touchdown as they're starting to get some momentum in this game. First and goal from the 2 to give us a double-digit lead once again as we're going up the middle. Nicely breaks a tackle. He's pushing his way through into the end zone, and our lead is now 21-10 as we scored our first point since the first quarter. Second and inches for Ohio State. We're going to send some pressure. They're going with an RPO, and somehow nobody's on them. And Ohio State's back into the end zone, and this game is back within a touchdown. Here on the 2-point try, Ohio State's going to go with a run play out to the right side, and they find the end zone for a 2-pointer. Second and 11, and Ohio State's going to the air. Dropping all the way back to pass, taking a deep shot over the top, and it's a touchdown, and Ohio State will take their first lead of the game. With 16 seconds left, Ohio State will take a knee to get a win, give us our first loss on the season after an absolute embarrassment from offense. As we had a defensive touchdown to start the game, another touchdown to follow it, but after that 14-0 lead, we just couldn't get anything going. And an unfortunate way to end that game. Ohio State will get the win, give us our first loss on the season. But now we've got to sim through our final 2 games to see if it's enough to get us in the Big Ten championship game before hopefully heading into the college football playoffs. Now, as we head into our college football playoff matchup this season, in a surprising turn of events, we will have a home game playing against the surprise team of the season in 11th ranked Boston College. As after that loss to Ohio State, our only on the season, we would have a bye week and 2 more games. The first one at Minnesota in a 42-7 win, and then our final game at home versus Michigan State in a 52-17 blowout. So we would end our regular season 11-1 and 8-1 in conference play, but unfortunately it wasn't good enough to get in the Big Ten championship game, as it would be between Ohio State and USC. USC would end up taking that game and having the eventual Heisman winner at quarterback. So they're having a fantastic season for themselves. But we would end up getting the 6th seed playing Boston College. And if we were to win this game, we would play against 3rd ranked LSU in the Cotton Bowl. But another thing we have to talk about is early National Signing Day, as we have landed a decent amount of recruits. And these are some very good recruits. This 4-star receiver has star development with 94 speed and should be great for us in the future. And even this other receiver, 94 speed with impact development, already has some abilities with some mental abilities as well. Should be great as well. This 4-star guard has star development. This defensive tackle has elite development. And this Mike linebacker has impact, as well as his athlete right next to him has impact development. But my favorite player in this class so far is this 5-star corner who has star development with 98 speed. Hopefully he can fix our secondary issues in the future. But now we've got to jump into this game to see if we can win another college football playoff matchup, this time at home against Boston College. Now, as we jump into this rainy mess here in Maryland, currently up by 8 points as Boston College has a third and 9. They're dropping back, send a floater up top. It's deflected down and intercepted, and we'll get it across our own 35 down to about the Boston College 32, where we'll take over and look to shut down this game. As I said, it was a rainy mess, as this game was only 7-6 heading into this fourth quarter. But before we jumped in, we scored a rushing touchdown, and then that pick gave us the ball back as we'll go up the middle, and there's Boston College's first timeout. They'll still have two left, but their defense needs to stop. They cannot allow us to get any points in this game if they want a chance at making a comeback. Malik Washington is going to keep it on the ground. He's chugging forward, and he's just shy of that first down, and there's the second timeout for the Eagles. They've got one left. They need to stop. Unfortunately for them, we're within field goal range with one of the best kickers in the entire country in O'Hare. As Malik Washington is going to take off and run, even though they had two linebackers up the middle, he's going to run straight through them. There's the first down, and we should have enough time to just take a knee. But we'll come out here. Not quite enough time, just over 3 minutes left. But Boston College has no timeouts. We'll run as much clock off as we want. As Nicely is going to get stuffed up the middle there. He's going to lose 2 yards. Brings up 2nd and 12, and we'll let all this clock run down as far as we possibly can, and it looks like we jumped off sides. As I was actually the running back Jackson who jumped early. It's a false start from him. We'll push back. Go back to the 25 and have a 2nd and 17. We don't need a first down. We just need to make a field goal if we can get there. A handoff up the middle. We'll get a couple of yards back, about the penalty yardage, as we'll hit the 2-minute warning, and that's the final clock stoppage for Boston College. We're likely not going to use any of our timeouts after this. Malik Washington's dropping back. On 3rd and 13, he's got to scramble out immediately. He finds a completion, breaks out of the first tackle, but gets wrapped down. And with a 4th and 11 coming up, we'll bring out the kicking team to solidify our win. On 4th and 11 from about the 25, making it a 35-yarder, and it's right down the middle. It will give us a 17-6 lead, and that should end Boston College's season and send us on to LSU in the Cotton Bowl. As now in a 17-6 game, Boston College needs a miracle. But with their offense doing nearly nothing so far this game, and only 1:14 on this clock as they return it out of the end zone, can't even get back to the 20. They got to go 82 yards in just over 70 seconds. They're going to start with a pass. Dropping back, taking a shot towards the sideline. It's a jump ball as it's broken up. Threw it into triple coverage. And now it's 2nd and 10. Losing about 5 seconds on that throw. And they're dropping back once again. Somebody's got to make a play. Here's he scrambling out. Throwing towards the sideline. And if he kept his feet in bounds, that would have been back-to-back picks for Boston College. But instead, he falls out of bounds, and it's 3rd and 10. The quarterback grabbing onto his arm here as he seems to be hurt. But he's still dropping back. Going to go towards that sideline. It'll get him across the 20. As it's actually Alberto Mendoza. Went off to Georgia Tech after Indiana and found his way here at Boston College as he's dropping back. He's got pressure in his face. He's throwing it up top. And, of course, it's back-to-back picks. And we could return this to the end zone, but we're down at the 5. We don't even need another touchdown. We'll take a turnover to end this game, and Malik Washington will take a knee to give us a first-round matchup win. Head on to play third-ranked LSU. A 17-6 win, and we need to keep our momentum heading into our second-round matchup. Now, after getting a fairly easy win in our first-round matchup at home against Boston College, we will now be taking on third-ranked LSU, the SEC champion, in the Cotton Bowl. To start off this new year, we're looking for a second-round matchup win, but if we were to get the dub, we would take on either 7th-ranked Miami or the team that we beat in our first-round matchup last year in 2nd-ranked Oklahoma in the semifinals. But if we want the chance at taking down either Miami or Oklahoma, we have to jump into this game to see if we can get a win in the Cotton Bowl against LSU. We'll jump into this game with a third down, a 180 throw out to the left side for Malik Washington, but it gets stuffed at the line, and we'll hit the 2-minute warning as we're currently dominating LSU 31-14. At one point in this game, we were up 24 to nothing, but then 2 LSU touchdowns and a touchdown from us gave us 31-14 as they'll return this from inside their own 20 back to their 35. Well, they'll start their drive, and Bryce Underwood is going to need a miracle. He transferred in from Michigan not too long ago, as he's going to start with a pass over the middle of the field that gets him about 15. Gets him a fresh set of downs just across midfield at about the 49. And it looks like we're going to send everybody deep. Make sure we can get no deep balls as he throws it into a very tight window, but that gets another first down, and LSU's offense continues to move. LSU had a chance to get back into this game, but on their previous drive, they fumbled the ball on the goal line before that third down that we jumped into and watched. Underwood dropping back, going to float it towards the sideline, and his second pick of the game goes off to Granger. That's another turnover for LSU, and it has just cost them their season. Getting the bye in the first round really came back to haunt this LSU team, as they were not ready for the Terps. And now with a first and 10 and just under 90 seconds left in this game, we just need to run the ball a few times, get rid of those LSU timeouts. I'll try to spin out of one, break in a tackle as nicely as that's actually Jackson into the game. Now we'll bring Nicely back into the game. He's just shy of the first down, and it looks like LSU will not use any timeouts. The play clock gets 3. We'll finally snap it, and we'll get stuffed behind the line as Nicely will get nothing. But this could be the final play of the game. Third down as we'll let this clock wind down as far as we can. A handoff up the middle, Nicely bullying his way through, and he'll leave this game with a first down, and we'll leave this Cotton Bowl with a victory. 31-14. Complete dominance throughout this entire game. Our defense continues to get turnovers against opposing offenses. Lane Kiffin goes down, and now we have a matchup in the semifinals against either 7th-ranked Miami or 2nd-ranked Oklahoma. Now, after beating 3rd-ranked LSU in the Cotton Bowl, we're taking a step up this week and playing against 2nd-ranked Oklahoma, a team looking to get revenge as we beat them in the first round of the college football playoffs last year, is coming in with an even better squad looking to get their revenge. But the stakes are at its highest right now as we are in the semifinals, and the winner of this game will take on either 1st-ranked USC or 5th-ranked Ohio State. If we were to win this game, we would either try and get our revenge against the Buckeyes, who we lost to towards the end of our regular season, or USC, who won the Big Ten outright. A lot at stakes here, looking to get a national championship in just our 3rd season, but the only way to make the game is by jumping into this game to see if we can take down Oklahoma. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 for Oklahoma. Currently down by 5 points. That pass over the middle of the field will get them a first down. Oklahoma will get back to the line very quickly here as they need a touchdown on this drive to come out on top in this Fiesta Bowl. Play action going towards the sideline. A negative play there. Getting nothing. But the clock continues to tick here. Both teams with all 3 timeouts in a game where it's just been field goals back and forth. We have both touchdowns as we were losing 9-7 before the previous drive, where we'd go down and score, and then back-to-back punts gives Oklahoma the ball with a 3rd and 10 now. They're dropping back to pass once again. Looking deep downfield. He's got to watch out from behind. We sent the blitz from the corner position, and a sack will push Oklahoma back here 4th and 14. And they'll have to bring out the punt team once again from about midfield. No chance of a kicker making it from here. Trying to pin us inside our own 10, and it looks like they'll do it at about the 11. And with 2.5 minutes left on this clock, we're going to need Malik Washington to lead a drive here with multiple first downs. He's going to try and pitch it. He can't even get it out before he's sacked, and there's the first Oklahoma timeout of this fourth quarter. Now on 2nd and 14, we're going to need Malik Washington to come up with his best moment as a Terp. He's going to go with a handoff, get all that sack yardage back, as there's the second Sooner timeout. We're going to need somebody to make a play here on 3rd and 11, whether it's a slant or an inside, maybe a post up top. It looks like we're going to go with a handoff to keep the clock running. And on 4th down, we'll likely hit the 2-minute warning, as we will. It'll give Oklahoma the ball with 2 minutes and a timeout remaining to keep their season alive and to get their revenge after we beat them last year. Looking to avoid having the Terps end their season twice in a row, as they're going to go with a return here, and he just barely got across the 30. That leaves 68 yards for the Sooners to go to the end zone. On 1st down, we're going to send a blitz, and it's Polu off the edge from his linebacker spot, and he'll take him down for a loss of 7, our 5th defensive sack of the game. The Oklahoma offensive line struggling so far, as now the clock continues to run down below 90 seconds. Another pass, a very quick ball outside this time, looking to avoid a sack. Gets about 5 yards back, but they'll hurry back up to the line. And now that their quarterback's over 150 yards, he's going to need 12 more on this 3rd down to keep their drive moving. They'll likely go for it on 4th as they are dropping back to pass once again. There's pressure in his face, going towards the sideline on a little floater, and it gets another chunky yardage, but it's 4th and 7, and Oklahoma scrams back to the line to try and get this snap off. If it falls incomplete, this game is over. And if they get a first, they'll have only 60 seconds. But they're going over the top one-on-one. It's deflected downwards, and the Dirty Terps will end Oklahoma's season for 2 straight years. As Malik Washington will take the knee, the clock goes all the way down to triple zeros. And in just 3 seasons, the Terps will have their very first trip to the national title to take on one of their Big Ten rivals in either the Ohio State Buckeyes or the USC Trojans. Now, after we took down Boston College in the first round, LSU in the second round, and Oklahoma in the third round, we will be taking on the number 1 team in the entire country in first-ranked USC. A team with the same exact record as us, 14-1 overall and 8-1 in conference play. Going from the number 3 team in the second round, the number 2 team in the semifinals, and now the number 1 team in the national championship. As after we would beat Oklahoma, USC would take down Ohio State by just 3 points. 2 fairly low-scoring games in the semifinals, but in this national championship, it could be an offensive explosion. 2 of the best offenses in the entire country so far this season have also been matched with 2 of the best defenses in the entire country as well. Both teams are top 10 in takeaways, but now we've got to jump into this game to see if we can get our first national championship in just 3 seasons, this time taking down USC. We'll jump into this game with a 2nd and 10 for USC as they're dropping back to pass, going on a slant over the middle of the field, and that gets them about 6 yards on that play. As the Heisman winner, Jonas Williams, has been struggling so far. He does have 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, but only 59 yards as he's dropping back, scrambling away, and he'll take a sack. It's the safety messiah, Delholm, with the sack to push USC back. And that 10-point deficit isn't getting any better, as now they're going to be forced to go for it here on 4th and 11. A desperate move for the Trojans, as they do not want to go down to their fellow Big Ten opponent in the national championship. And they'll convert across the 40, just shy of the 30, as they'll get a 4th down conversion. Our defense crumbling in the biggest moments of this game so far, but they'll hurry back up to the line with a 1st and 10 as we're approaching 4 minutes left in this national championship. We're sending the house. Williams will keep it himself, but he's not going to get anything on that play. If anything, he might have lost a few yards on that play. A few feet, actually. But on 2nd and 10, he's going to hand it off this time, and it's going to get plugged up the middle. Harris isn't going anywhere. And once again, 3rd and 10 from their own 31 now as we're approaching the final 3.5 minutes of our season. Taking a deep shot towards that right side, but it's going to fall incomplete. And it's another 4th down for the Trojans, but this time they're within field goal range. They'll bring out the kicking team to put the kick up, and this will make it a 1-touchdown game. But we'll be getting the ball back as they'll send it deep. And with a few first downs and getting rid of those USC timeouts, we should be able to hold this lead as we'll take a knee in the end zone and start our drive from the 25. Looking to hold our lead as we've had it since about the 2nd quarter. We were tied at one point, but now starting to pull away as we're going to motion a tight end off. Keep it on the ground with Washington. He's got to be careful not to fumble the football, and it looks like he's going to lose a yard on that play. But now we're inside 3 minutes, and we might be closing in on timeout territory for the Trojans. Another handoff up the middle. We have a huge running lane to go, just shy of that 1st down, and there's the first USC timeout. 3rd and inches now. Lincoln Riley's going to have to work a masterclass if he wants to get him back into this game. Fake it to the receiver, go up the middle, and that's a 1st down for Nicely. Another timeout for the Trojans. As now on 1st and 10, with about 2.5 minutes left. Going with a handoff up the middle to Nicely, who gets popped. But that's the final USC timeout. As another rush for about 5 yards. With 2.5 minutes, only one more clock stoppage for the Trojans. It's that 2-minute warning, but if we get a 1st down, this game will be over. A handoff this time to Jackson, and Jackson's going to lose a yard on the play. But we'll hit the 2-minute warning, and things are getting close here in this national championship. But after the 2-minute warning, we'll come back to the line. Needing 6 yards to end this game, but USC's defense needs to stop. We're going to the air, going underneath out to that right side, and Washington crosses 250 yards, but we'll be shy of that 1st down mark, and we'll be forced to punt it away. As the clock hits about 80 seconds left in this national championship, and that might be a near perfect punt. Pins USC inside their own 10 from about their 7, and they have to go 93 yards to tie this game up. The first play will be a very quick out ball, getting it to their big tight ends, but it's only 5 yards, but even 10 seconds. 16 will continue to fall off this clock. All the way down to 1 minute and 2 seconds. A one-on-one ball over the top, a jump ball. And even through all that contact, they'll bring it down, keep their drive moving, a 1st and 10 from about the 39. 55 seconds, and they'll spike the ball down to 54. And now on 2nd and 10, they'll have about 3 downs to work with to get another 1st and keep moving. Williams going underneath. That's a solid chunk of yards, but they need to go farther. Jordan brings in his 4th catch of the game for about 5 yards. 3rd and 5 for the Trojans to work with. They're dropping back to pass. Williams going one-on-one over the top. Once again, another jump ball this time. It's deflected down, and now it brings up 4th down for the season. USC needing 5 yards. Our defense needing an incompletion. They're dropping back, taking a shot. It falls into the hands of one of our safeties, and we'll get a chance to return this on the pick across the 40, but that doesn't matter. We'll get shoved out of bounds, and that will secure our national championship. Taking down the Heisman winner, only losing to the Buckeyes earlier this season. Washington in his final season will take a knee. The clock will go to 000, and the Terps have won the national championship. After only 3 seasons, 3 years of Malik Washington as quarterback, and he has done it in his final season. But even though we've got this 24-17 win, this will not be the end of this rebuild. Since it was so quick, it was only 3 seasons, and we haven't had a quarterback change. We'll play one more season to see if these Terps can go back to back. Now, after beating USC in the national championship, we haven't set on to the transfer portal yet, but I figure since we won the national championship, I should give the players the recognition they deserve. As I'll show the stats for this season so far, as in his final season, Malik Washington would throw for 3,800 yards and 27 touchdowns to only 3 picks. But he wasn't the only one on the offensive side, as our run game was fantastic too, with Nicely going over 1,100 yards with 15 rushing touchdowns. And even his backup Jackson went for nearly 500 yards with 4 touchdowns, and Washington had 360 and 6 touchdowns on top of that. But it seems like they weren't even the second or third guys in touchdowns, as the fourth string backup, Harry Dalton, went for only 15 yards, but 7 rushing touchdowns. I don't know how we allowed that, but good for him. He goes for 7 touchdowns on the ground. He should be returning, and maybe he can go for even more touchdowns. But my favorite part of this offense was easily the receiving game. We didn't have anybody go over 1,000 yards, but Taylor went for 980, White went for 890, and Tank Hawkins went for 790 as well. And even the tight end that I told you guys, when he committed to Clemson, he didn't have an offer for them, and I was expecting him to flip. Well, he did exactly that and came to the Terps and got 700 yards with 3 touchdowns. Hawkins also had 7 touchdowns. White only had 2 touchdowns, but Taylor came home with 12 touchdowns through the air. Minimal drops in this offense, too, as between the four of them, there were only 2 drops. Now, on the defensive side, we had some huge seasons, as an insane season out of both edge rushers, 28 TFLs and 23 TFLs, with 33 and a half sacks combined from both of them. An insane season for the duo. But they weren't the only ones. Up the middle, Weiss and Jenkins were a fantastic defensive tackle duo with 28 combined TFLs and 15 combined sacks. But now, in the passing game, Carey led with 5 picks. Polu and Delhomme were tied for second with 4 picks. And then we had some guys with 2 picks, and Dupree came home with 1 pick. An insane season for both sides of the football, leading us to the national championship. But now we've got to head on to our very first week of offseason recruiting. Now, after simming just 1 week, we do have some important players who are unfortunately leaving the program. As other than the seniors who are leaving, we're going to be losing 2 of our top 4 receivers in Emmanuel Taylor and Caden Protho. Both of them are going off to the NFL, so we're going to need to replace these guys. But we were able to convince Jalen Gilchrist to return. He was one of our top tackles, but unfortunately, we're going to lose our other tackle in Isaiah Brooks, who's leaving due to pro potential. Now, for the running backs, we were able to keep Iverson Howard, but the man who scored 7 touchdowns on the ground for us last season, Harry Dalton, he will be leaving to the transfer portal. Now, we were able to keep one tight end in JT Taggart, but he isn't the greatest tight end, so we're still going to need to bring in a top option. And unfortunately, the 4-star quarterback we brought in last season in Baldridge, he's going off due to playing time. But now for guys going off to the NFL, Jenkins, Mathis, both projected to go in the 3rd. Nicely and White are projected to go into the 5th. And then Polu and Hawkins are projected to go into the 3rd and 2nd round. So our pro potential will likely go up in those positions. But now we've got to sim on to our very first week and final transfer portal. Now, as we head into our very final transfer portal in this rebuild, we're going to start off by taking a look at who got drafted, because our most players have gone in the draft so far in this rebuild. With our 2 best receivers, and Emmanuel Taylor and Tank Hawkins going in the 2nd, Zaire Mathis, Bryce Jenkins, and Cyrus Polu going in the third, with Dominic Nicely, Narelle White, Caden Protho all going in the fourth. And then Trevor Szymanski going in the sixth. And then for our final bit of players, Malik Washington, Anthony Robsack, and Messiah Delhomme all rounding it out in the seventh round. But now for our transfer portal, as we have landed some high school players so far. Unfortunately, I don't think they'll be able to make much of an impact as we still have Sams, Cones, and Bush on our board. They could still end up here at our program, but the important part, I could have gone after a bunch of 5-stars who are now interested since we have won the national championship, but I want production. Most of the 5-stars are freshmen who haven't had any chance to step on the field yet, but in this final season, we need guys who have shown that they can produce in college football. But the biggest one, we need to replace Washington as he's going off to the NFL, and we're looking at the man from Ole Miss, Deuce Knight, to start off our board. He is one of 2 quarterbacks. We've got 2 running backs, a receiver, a tight end, 3 offensive tackles, 1 guard, and 1 center on the offensive side. But on the defensive side, we've got 3 edge rushers, 3 linebackers, 2 safeties, and another receiver at the bottom of our board who we could go in as he had over 1,100 yards at NC State. So a ton of talent that we're looking to bring in here, looking to bring in the guys who have given us production and have already shown it in college football so far. But now we're going to sim to our final week. It's going to be week 4 of the transfer portal to see if we can land every single player. Now, after going through 4 weeks of the transfer portal, I ended up going a perfect 31 for 31 on recruits, with the first bunch coming from high school and a quarterback, a right tackle, a defensive tackle, 2 receivers, a right guard, another defensive tackle, 2 linebackers, and a corner. Most of these players being 4-stars with a 3-star and a 5-star mixing their way into our recruiting class. But the most important part as we are heading into our final season is the transfer portal. Ended up landing a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 3 offensive tackles, a guard, and a center for the offensive side of the ball. But on the defensive side, we got 4 edge rushers, 3 linebackers, a corner, and 2 safeties. Some 3-stars, a decent amount of 4-stars, and we ended up landing a 5-star in the transfer portal. And all of this got us inside the top 15 with the number 14 class in the entire country. Spending the most money we have all rebuild wrong in 2,470 total NIL points, landing 2 5-stars, 15 4-stars, and 14 3-stars. A huge class as we are now heading into our final season. But now we're going to go ahead and sim on to our final season, Season 4. Now, as we're heading into our final season of this rebuild, we are returning this year as the number 1 team in the entire country after winning the national championship. But even after winning it, we're somehow returning to this season with an even better roster than what we had, as we're up to a 99 overall for the first time in this rebuild on the offensive side, and even a 96 overall on the defensive side. But the best player on this roster was the man who was blocking for Malik Washington on the left side last season, is Jalen Gilchrist, who's now up to a 93 overall. But this season, he'll be blocking for the transfer from Ole Miss, Deuce Knight, who's now up to a 92 overall, this time with 88 speed. But the best defensive player on the roster was the man who led this team in interceptions last season in Daryl Carey, who's now a 90 overall with 90 speed. But easily the deepest room on this entire roster has to be the wide receiver room once again. Even though none of the 3 starters are returning, as they all went off to the NFL, we are now led by Shakir, East, and Foster, who are all above an 89 overall and even above 88 speed. But the best edge rusher on this team has to be Hayden Lowe, who's now taking a step up in the depth chart after we lost our 6'7" edge rusher and Mathis, who are both going off to the NFL and who both led the country in sacks. But even with a good receiving game, we are now having a new running back at the top of the roster as it's Iverson Howard taking a step up. He's now an 89 overall with 92 speed. Should have a much larger role in this roster, but it could change throughout the season as now we have some new running backs here. Menocal, he's coming into this roster at an 89 overall, and even one of our backups last season, Charles Jackson, who was more of our third down and goal line back, he could have a huge role on this roster once again. But for the rest of this team, some high 80 overalls, even mid 80 overalls, fill this roster. Most of these guys aren't even going to see the field for the rest of the season or at all. And then for the rest of this team, high 70 overalls rounded out, and even the lowest overalls on this roster are still above 70s. No 69 overalls or lower. They definitely won't see the field this season. But now for the schedule that this team has to take on, as it's a little bit different, there's more rivalry games towards the beginning of the season, but it starts in week 1 with a pretty easy game at home versus Toledo. But then our first bye week comes in week 2 before our very first rivalry game of the season, this time at Virginia Tech. Looking to get our third win against the Hokies in this rebuild, and it's the first of 3 straight rivalry games as we'll go play at Rutgers in week 4 and then at home in our final non-conference this time against Virginia. But then to start off the rest of conference play, we'll have home versus 15th ranked Indiana, at Michigan State, at UCLA, home versus 19th ranked Nebraska, then at Wisconsin, at Illinois, home versus Michigan, and then home versus 18th ranked Washington to end our season. Hopefully we can go undefeated throughout this schedule, but there is a big difference. Since it is our final season and we've already won a national championship game, I will not play any of these regular season games. I want to see if this team can get it done without any of my influence on this team. So I will just give you guys an update throughout the middle of the season and then towards the end of the season to see if we can get into the Big Ten championship game for the first time. The only game I will play in this season is if we can make it back to the national championship game. That is the only time I can have an impact on this season. But now the final big thing is there will be no recruiting in this season. Since it is our very final season, there is no reason for me to go out and recruit any high school players. But now we're going to go ahead, head on to week 1 where we'll start our season against Toledo. Now, as we head into week 1 of our final season, we will not be jumping into this game and playing against Toledo. But since this is our final season and we won't have any recruiting updates this season, we're going to look at something else throughout the season. As at the start of this rebuild, I said that I only had one challenge. It was to win a national championship. And from College Football 26, I was removing one of my challenges, and that was to win a Heisman Trophy. But since this is our final season and we've already won a national title, we're now going to try and bring that Heisman Trophy challenge back. Even though it's tougher than ever in this game to win a Heisman Trophy, we are now currently the 3rd ranked player in the preseason Heisman voting. Deuce Knight will be 3rd. Hopefully he can get that number 1 spot, or somebody else on this roster can bring home a Heisman Trophy. This at least gives us something to keep track of throughout the season, so we're not just waiting to get done with the regular season. But now, we're going to go ahead, sim to the midpoint of the season to see if we can retain our number 1 spot and stay undefeated. Now, as we hit the midpoint of our final season here, we are still the number 1 team in the entire country, still have not lost a game yet as we are currently 6-0. And none of these games have really been close. Our closest game has been by 7 points. But first, in week 1, we would win 42-3 at home versus Toledo before our first bye week, and then 2 straight road rivalry games. Our closest game, like I mentioned, it was 20-13 at Virginia Tech. Before our second of 3 straight rivalry games, this time at Rutgers, winning 30-3. Then our third and final rivalry game was at home versus Virginia this time in a game where we won 36-14. the most points we've given up so far this season, and it was only 2 touchdowns to a Virginia team that's currently 5-1. But then our biggest win of the season was at home versus Indiana in a game where we put up 44 points on them and only giving up 0. And at the time, this Indiana team was ranked at number 22 in the entire country, and that big blowout win knocked them completely out of the rankings, and they haven't gotten back in even after winning their most recent game. But our most recent game was at Michigan State, where we won 43-6, not even giving the Spartans a single chance in that game. So now heading into the rest of the season, we have at UCLA, home versus 8th ranked Nebraska. It will be our biggest game of the season. Then we have at Wisconsin, at Illinois, home versus Michigan, and then home versus a now ranked Washington team. We need to win all those games. We need to find our way in the Big Ten championship game. But the one thing we were going to follow so far this season was the Heisman watch, as unfortunately we have fallen out of the top 4. Deuce Knight is unable to keep his top 4 spot. It's currently being led by Bear Bachmeier, who's having a huge season for Texas so far, 1,640 yards and 9 passing touchdowns to only 2 picks. So we're going to have to step things up if we want to get back into these conversations. But now we're going to go ahead and sim to our very final regular season game. Hopefully we can win that game, and maybe our next update will be at the Big Ten championship game. Now, as we head into conference championship week, we have made it. After going 12-0 in the regular season, we will be taking on another 12-0 team. One of 3 12-0 teams so far. It will be USC, a team that we beat in the college football playoffs last year. So we're looking to do it again, this time in our conference championship game. But we didn't get here with a couple close wins. We did blow out most teams. But after that Michigan State update, we would go to UCLA, win 38-19. Then a game that scared me the most, as it was a top 10 ranked Nebraska team at the time. We beat them 24-17 on our home turf. One of our 2 7-point games so far this season. Then our next game at Wisconsin, 41-13, at Illinois, 65-3, home versus Michigan, 37-7, and then our final game of the season against a ranked Washington team, 44-6. A perfect 12-0 regular season, but I said that we were one of 3 teams. The other team to go a perfect 12-0 was Tennessee. They ended up taking our number 1 spot, so we are down to number 2. But the big thing this season was the Heisman watch. At the midpoint, we were unranked, and at the final regular season update, we are still unranked. We do have our championship game, our conference championship game, to see if we can finally get to that number 1 spot. But unfortunately, the guy who currently holds that number 1 spot is the guy we're facing in our conference championship game in Jonas Williams. He won the award last year. He's looking to do it for 2 straight years at USC. We'll try and take that away from him. So we're going to jump into this game. We're going to sim to the final few minutes to see if we can keep our undefeated season and go 13-0 this time against USC. Now, as we jump into this game, unfortunately, we're down 31-10, and Deuce Knight's going to start this play, going over the middle, getting a first down, and keeping our drive alive. But this game has really been flipped on its head as Deuce Knight's thrown 3 interceptions. Exactly what we didn't need, as we're looking to get a first-round bye in the college football playoffs, but I don't know if this loss will get us there, as that's another solid play over the middle, this time getting 5 yards, bringing up 2nd and 5. We've got to get back on the ball, though, if we want a chance of making a comeback. Dropping back once again is Knight, floating it up towards that right side, and that ball is punched out late, as it brings up a 3rd and 5, and we're going to have to go to the end zone at some point. Needing 3 straight touchdowns as we're going over the middle on 3rd down. That's about 4 yards, but that does not get a first. As Deuce Knight's now over 150 yards passing, Still with those 3 interceptions on his head as we're heading into the college football playoffs with a little bit of momentum loss as Deuce Knight's taking a sack. He tried to step up. He gets flattened by Denson, and USC will get the ball back with about 3 minutes left. We still have all 3 timeouts, but we're likely not going to use any of them, as we'll likely just let this game roll down. 1st and 10, a pass over the middle for Williams. That's a first down across the 40, and he's had no mistakes this game. Over 270 yards, 3 touchdowns to no picks. The difference in those game being the 3 turnovers, as now Williams is going to try and pitch it out, but instead he's going to take a loss of 4, as it looks like we'll hit the 2-minute warning here, and USC will likely continue to run this game out, as they'll get back to the line here with a 2nd and 14. This is not the game we were hoping for. It will unfortunately be our first loss on the season, but we should still have a first round, maybe a bye, likely a first round home game in the college football playoffs. We definitely shouldn't get knocked out of the playoffs for this loss, as now it's a 3rd down for USC up the middle with the run game. And that will likely end the game as it's King with over 40 yards rushing now. And USC will likely just need to run out one more play to end this game, as now the clock hits 40 seconds. One more run will likely take off all the time, as Williams is going to keep it on the ground. He's going up the middle, and who cares about running out of time when you can just run into the end zone, and a gritty from the USC quarterback who's likely going to win the Heisman Trophy, as that will definitely slam the door on our chances of winning this Big Ten championship. And in this rebuild, we'll go winless in this game. But we have already won a national championship. We can still do it again, as now it's a 28-point game. And they'll likely just send it deep. I don't know if we're going to go for the end zone. I don't know if we're going to make a run play to try and get this clock down to 0. But we will return it out of the end zone. And we're going to need some sort of momentum going to the playoffs. Hopefully we can get an easy matchup in the first round. Hopefully we can keep a bye, if anything. But we're going to start up the middle for what is likely our final play. That's a first down for Iverson Howard. We'll try and get back to the line, but we're inside single digits. USC is going to send everybody deep, only rushing 3, and we're going to let the clock hit triple zeros. That is unfortunately how our regular season will end. And after that performance, I don't think Deuce Knight has a single chance of winning the Heisman. And for the USC quarterback, Jonas Williams, he had a fantastic game, as he's likely going to win it once again. But now we're going to head on to the college football playoffs, where hopefully we keep a first round bye. But if anything, we should still have a home game. Now, as we head into the college football playoffs, even though we lost to USC in the Big Ten championship game, we did get a first round bye. So in this second round, we will be taking on 6th-ranked Ohio State, as in their first round matchup, they would beat 11th-ranked Utah 41-18. So they're on a bit of a hot streak right now. And if we were to win this game, we would take on either Texas A&M or a revenge game against USC once again. Really wanting to win this game to try and get our revenge, hoping USC does the same so we get a chance. But now we've got to jump into this game to see if we can start our run to win back-to-back national championships. We'll jump into this tie game, 21-21, as we're inside the Ohio State red zone. Deuce Knight's going to keep it on the ground. He's going to find some space inside the 10, inside the 5, to the end zone. And just before we jumped in, we had an interception. And Deuce Knight will take advantage as he walks into the end zone. And we'll have our first lead of the game. 27-21 right now, with the PAT, should make it 28, as Deuce Knight's having a little bit of a better game than that Big Ten championship game, as he now gets a rushing touchdown on top of it, and the PAT is good. We've got a 28-21 game against Ohio State, and we'll send it deep as they'll have just over 4 minutes left to try and make a comeback. As it looks to land inside the end zone, they're going to return it from the end zone, but he's going to run straight into a brick wall. He's not going to let him get past at the 11. And Ohio State's got to go 89 yards to the end zone within 4 minutes. Or if they were to turn the ball over here, they should have a chance to get it back. but that very first play is going to get blown up for a loss. He's going to lose a yard back inside his own 10. And now on 2nd and 11, Ohio State's going to need something better than whatever that first play was. They're going to start with a motion of the receiver to the bottom of the screen, trying to drop back. Henderson's going to dump it out, and it's another TFL, as Henderson's already having a rough enough day with 2 picks and under 200 yards passing. But now he's got a 3rd and 13 for possibly the Buckeyes season, as they're going to motion out a receiver once again. 3 receivers to the top of the screen. He's dropping back into his own end zone. He gets blown up. He gets smacked, and they're not even going to get back to the 10, as it will be 4th and 12, and the punt team comes out for the Buckeyes. They're going to get it out as fast as they possibly can, as they're sending it deep, and we're going to get a return possibly from our own 35. Trying to find some space to Shakir. Shakir crosses midfield. He's unable to escape, but he does get back to the 46, where we'll start our drive. A few yards should get us within field goal range, but a first down could end it, as Deuce Knight's just going to run straight up the middle, straight through the gut. He might have gotten a yard, but there's a Buckeye timeout. And now we have 2nd and 8 here from the 44. Still needing some extra yards here, as we'll likely go to the ground. It's going to be Deuce Knight once again with a keeper, trying to find some space on the outside, and he just lost all those yards that he got on first down. But there's another Buckeye timeout, as now we'll have 3rd and 10 with all 2s on the clock. Deuce Knight dropping back once again. He's got pressure in his face. He'll get it out quickly to the tight end over the middle. That's just shy of a first down, and we'll bring out the field goal unit. And it looks like we hit the 2-minute warning, as we will. 4th and 1, just across the logo. The kick is down for the lefty. It's straight up. It's right down the middle to give the Terps a 10-point lead. And time is running low for Ohio State in their season, as we'll send it back to them. It's going to be inside the end zone once again, but this time they will take a knee. But with 1:57 on the clock, only 1 timeout for Ohio State. They've got to go 75 yards, and then they have to do it once again, as Henderson gets it out quickly to the left side. It's punched out late, so it will fall incomplete, and now it's 2nd and 10 as the clock stops at 1:54. Henderson trying to make some adjustments here on this 2nd down. Likely looking for a big play downfield as they're dropping back to pass once again. Henderson stepping up, going over the middle of the field. That should have gotten Ohio State a first down, but it will land just shy, and they've got to get back on the ball here with 3rd and inches. Still 65 yards to go to the end zone, and Henderson's dropping back once again. Looking for somebody towards that sideline. He's got a first down. He's across midfield. Did he get out of bounds? And it looks like he does. And actually, he won't. The clock stopped for the moment after that first down, but it will continue to roll here. Inside 90 seconds left. And Ohio State's dropping back once again. Henderson's got pressure in his face. He gets smacked, but he does get the ball out, and it will fall incomplete. 2nd and 10 with about 81 seconds left. Henderson going to the air once again. A ton of time as he's got perfect blocks. Going to that left side towards the left hash, and that's a first down. Now across the Terps 35, and they'll get back on the ball once again. Wouldn't be surprised if they were to try and take a field goal sooner rather than later, then go for the onside earlier. As they're taking another shot, that's a first down, as he does haul it in. And with 1 minute and 6 seconds left, they're trying to get back on the ball before a minute. 1st and 10 now inside the red zone. It's another pass for Henderson as he goes 5 wide, stepping up, going to the end zone on the first play, and that could have been intercepted. But instead it falls incomplete. Another chance for Henderson and his offense, as now it's 2nd and 10. Dropping back once again. We're sending more pressure. Henderson scrambling. Henderson runs out of time, and it's Cole Carmichael with the sack. 3rd and 20 as it's a loss of 10, and everybody's got to get back to the line. Now from their own 29. Henderson, another pass for him. Trying to find something. He's got a ton of time going to the sideline for his big body receiver. And he does not get the first down. And here comes the field goal unit, as the clock does stop. And they'll take a chip shot field goal to make it a touchdown game once again, as it's right through, and it gives Ohio State a chance, as they have to go for the onside on this play for the game. The kick is down to the 2nd line, and it will be picked up by the Terps. We'll recover it with about 31 seconds left. And we'll bring out the offense to take a knee, end Ohio State's season, and we'll have a matchup with either Texas A&M or a rematch against USC in the next round. A huge performance from Deuce Knight. He needs to continue to do this throughout the playoffs if he want to win back-to-back. But now we're going to head to our third round matchup to see if we get USC once again. Now, as we head into our semi-final matchup, we will get our chance at revenge against now second-ranked USC. As in their second round matchup, they would take down Texas A&M 43-27. But if we were to get our revenge against the Trojans, we would take on either number 1 Tennessee or fourth-ranked Penn State. Every single team that got a bye in the first round of the college football playoffs ended up getting the win in the second round. Pretty much the exact opposite of what happened in last year's playoffs. But now we're just going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can end USC season for a second straight year. Now, as we jump into this game, we currently have an 8-point lead as Deuce Knight's going to go over the middle of the field. That's a first down and will keep our drive alive. That is a huge first down for us as it keeps taking more and more time off this clock. Takes more and more time away from USC to try and make a comeback. As Deuce Knight on first and 10 will go with a handoff. Up the middle, a first down inside the 5 at about the 3, and it's Iverson Howard who's having his best game of the season in the best moment. 149 yards as we're first and goal from the 3. Up the middle once again, trying to find the end zone, and we're going to find it. And that could officially lock the door as it's closing and closing even farther as we'll get up to 33-19, and this PAT should make it 34-19. It would make it a 15-point lead, cause USC to try and go after 2 straight touchdowns, and the PAT is good. In a game that we've really been dominating for most of it, a complete 180 of the Big Ten Championship game, where we started this game winning 10-0 as a return from the end zone on the kickoff gets stuffed before the 15, and USC has to go 87 yards to try and give a chance for them to make a comeback in this game. The Heisman winner Williams is going to start with a pitch to the outside. It'll get him across the 15, get him down at about the 17, and Williams really hasn't had many mistakes this game. Just trying to convert on third down as he's still under 200 yards passing. No touchdowns through the air and no picks so far, as they're letting a lot of time run off the clock here. 2nd and 6, they're dropping back, going one-on-one over the top. It looks to be out of bounds, and it will land out of bounds. Trying to burn the defense early, falls flat. 3rd and 6 for USC. Their season could be on the line in these final few plays. Williams is going to stiff arm a man, but he's still going to lose yards, and it's the All-American Hedgie who gets him for a loss. 4th and 7 for USC season. Trying to keep it alive here for Williams. Doesn't want to lose to the Terps in 2 straight seasons. Going over the middle of the field. It's incomplete, and the Terps will get the ball back with just over 2.5 minutes. USC does have 3 timeouts. They do have the 2-minute warning, but we're already inside the red zone. Up the middle on the first play, and we'll get nothing with Jackson. A timeout for the Trojans, and Lincoln Riley is going to somehow manage his way to lose to the Terps in back-to-back college football playoffs. As now, on 2nd down, a pitch out to the left side as we might have gotten a yard out of the play. We are down to the 15, but there's the second Trojan timeout. 3rd and 9 as we are now under 2.5 minutes left in this final game. We're going up the middle once again on another run. It looks like we'll have a field goal from the left hash, as it will be another timeout as it's actually the 2-minute warning. The final stoppage other than that one timeout, but from the left hash, the lefty puts it up. It's right down the middle, and we've got a 3-score game, and that definitely just shut the door, put the final nail in the coffin for USC as they're now down by 18 points. I don't know what happened in just a few weeks The difference from the Big Ten championship game to this college football playoffs, this team has completely stepped it up as USC will return it from the goal line, trying to find some space, looking for a kick return touchdown, but they'll get nothing. They won't even get back to the 20. As we'll send everybody deep, preventing the deep shots from USC as that's what they have to go to. But they're going to start with a slant. That's a first down. It should stop the clock for a little bit. But once everybody gets back to the line, it will continue to roll. As we're now inside a minute 45. Williams going to need a big play here on first down as he's stepping up, going over the middle of the field, a dangerous ball as it will be punched out there by our linebacker. 2nd and 10 as we're now inside the final 100 seconds of this Orange Bowl. Williams dropping back once again, going to that right side. He will find an open receiver for a first down, and they're down at the 45. Back on the ball they go as they want to keep that final timeout for as long as they can. 1st and 10. Somebody on this defense has to make a play, but instead they're going over the middle. Does he get the first down? It will stop the clock for a little bit, but hurry up offense for USC. As their offense is driving down the field pretty comfortably here, as they are going to drop back to pass once again. A very similar play to the previous one, as that's another first down. Williams is now over 200 yards passing, but he's got to be getting tired. His offense has to be getting tired at this point, as one mistake could end their season. Our defense needs a pick. Going over the middle once again. It's batted up. It's dropped by our safety. That could have been the dagger. But instead, USC will get another chance. Just about 65 seconds left in this game. Williams dropping back from the logo as it's going to be incomplete over the middle. 3rd and 10. Could be the final 2 plays for USC's offense. Could be the final 2 plays of Williams' college career. He's dropping back to pass once again, stepping up, getting hit. A jump ball somehow catches it over our corner. That's another first down, but he did not get out of bounds. The clock will continue to roll here once everybody gets back to the line, but USC is inside the 16. They'll spike it down with about 50 seconds left. Williams is in his groove as he's trying to find the end zone. 2nd and 10, dropping back to pass. A dump off to the running back who's inside the 15 but can't get to the 10. Only 4 yards on that play, and we're now inside 40 seconds between the Terps and the national title. Williams running out of time. He's got a ton of pressure in his face. He'll break the first sack. He'll still find a way to get it out of bounds, and what a play by Williams. It wasn't a conversion for a first, but to avoid the sack, that would have forced everybody to rush back, but it's a 4th and 6. The final play of USC season. It's broken up, and the Terps will get the ball back, still with their 18-point lead. We just need one final play to run this clock down and send us to the national championship. A handoff up the middle and a fitting way to end this game as it's Charles Jackson with the carry. It's a first down. We'll come back to the line to take a knee, but we don't have to. USC won't use their final timeout, and we'll let the clock hit triple zeros. And the Terps are going back to the national title game for the 2nd straight year. And for the first time this season, I will jump into a game, and we'll play our final game of this rebuild in the national title, looking for back-to-back titles. Now, as we head into national championship week, we are taking on the #1 team in the entire country, the team that took our #1 spot earlier in the season in the Tennessee Volunteers. But even though they're the #1 team, they have not had the easiest of games, as in their first game, they would only beat Florida by just 2 points, 30-28. And then in their most recent matchup, they had to just barely squeak out of a game in a high-scoring explosion, 51-48 against Penn State in overtime. So now heading into this game, we're looking to take our #1 spot back. But before we jump into that game, we're going to take a look at the season stats for this team that's made it back. As in the first year after Malik Washington, Deuce Knight has gone for 3,243 yards, 29 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. More interceptions than what we've wanted, but the ground game's been great so far this season. No 1,000-yard rusher, but a great group of guys as Iverson Howard has taken the #1 role. He's gone for 861 and 7 touchdowns, but his backup Jackson has gone for 781 and 6 touchdowns on the ground. But the man with the most touchdowns on the ground has been Deuce Knight, who's gone for nearly 340 on the ground with 10 rushing touchdowns. But the guy who's taking Dalton's role with not a lot of yards but a ton of touchdowns, it was DJ Cross. The man who came in from Ohio State, he had 1,500 yards for the Buckeyes, but came here and took a goal line roll for 43 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground. But in the receiving game, no 1,000-yard receiver once again, but a wide spread of offense as Wesley has gone for 851 and 7 touchdowns. East has gone for 796 and 10 touchdowns. And Kellum has gone for 655 and 4 touchdowns. And then Shakir, our fourth target, has gone for 583 and 3 touchdowns. So it's a solid all-around offense. But on the defensive side of things, we have a new TFL leader, as it will be Hayden Lowe, having the best season somehow after what kind of production we had last season, has gone for 33 TFLs and 20 sacks. But the man on the other side of him, the former 5-star Braden Jewell, has gone for 20 TFLs and 12 sacks. But the defensive tackle duo in Holmes and Weiss have gone for 18 TFLs combined and 7.5 combined sacks. But even from his linebacker position, Keontae Boatwright has gone for 8 TFLs and 4.5 sacks. But the man who has led us in interceptions for 2 straight years is Daryl Carey, who's gone for 5 picks once again. But Provo from the safety spot has gotten 4, and his other safety partner, Carthione, has gone for 3. So a great all-around performance has gotten us back to the national championship once again. So now we're going to go ahead, jump into this game, play our first game of the season, and it will be our final game of the rebuild against number 1 Tennessee. First and 10. Trying to get Tennessee to jump as it looks like they're sending the house, but we're still going up the middle. We get great blocks, and Iverson Howard's into the end zone for the first touchdown of this national championship. First and 10 for Tennessee on their first drive of the game. Dropping back. McIntyre will step up. He's going to float it up as he's hit at the line, and Boatwright will pick it off. And we'll get a touchdown on the ground and a pick 6 within the first quarter of this game. 3rd and 5. Tennessee is likely going to the air. They will. It's a slant to the inside. They've got an open receiver. He's got a ton of speed, and he'll go all the way to the end zone for a long receiving touchdown for Tennessee to cut this Terps lead in half. 4th and 14, and the 24th point of this first quarter will be scored. First and 10, as this will be the final play before the 2-minute warning. Back up the middle we go. Cross, the man who had 1,500 yards last season, will find his first touchdown of this national championship and give us our 2-score lead right back. First and 10. Tennessee going to the air, taking a shot. Will user Larkin. It's Carthione. Carthione with the pick, and will be in dangerous territory with the ball at the 40. Will come out here on 4th and inches to turn that Carthione interception into 3 points. First and 10. Tennessee going to the air, dropping back, going deep over the top, targeting Carthione once again, and he'll find his second pick of the second quarter as we're going to look for a return, and we're already across midfield. Carthione having himself a day, and it's only the second quarter. On the 3rd and 2, we'll take a field goal to give us a 3-score lead off the back of 2 Carthione interceptions, and won this half up 27-10. 2nd and inches for Tennessee. Just need to go forward by just a little bit, but they're going to go with a slant instead to their wide receiver 1, who's already escaped once this game, and he'll do it again for another Tennessee touchdown. 3rd and goal. Going to the air, waiting for somebody to get open. It's going to be Jackson on the screen, and Jackson's going to walk into the end zone, and we'll double our lead, make it 34-17. 3rd and 9 to start off this fourth quarter. 8 minutes to go before we're crowned national champions if we can hold our lead. McIntyre scrambling, looking for something. He's going to throw up a prayer, and his fourth interception of the game will be thrown out to Carey, and it's another pick six. Forrest and 10. Tennessee going with play action, trying to find some space, going to the outside, and George McIntyre has just thrown his fifth interception. Second and goal from the 2 to try and get Howard over 150 yards rushing, get his first touchdown, and he'll do just that. And this touchdown should officially end Tennessee's national championship hopes. First and goal from the 6. McIntyre's got to get it out. He's going to drop back to pass. Going to the sideline. He's got an open receiver, and he'll spin his way into the end zone as Tennessee will leave this game with a free touchdown. On 3rd and 11, this could be the final play of this rebuild. Get the snap off up the middle for Howard. Howard, as the clock hits triple zeros, he'll get stuffed, but that doesn't matter. This national championship is over. The Terps have officially gone back to back and created a dynasty. Our second straight national championship. 5 interceptions from George McIntyre. Sometimes you might get that from a high-flying Tennessee offense as they're passing the ball over the field. But the mistakes from McIntyre leads to another Terps national championship. This will officially be the end of the rebuild. We have completed this challenge. Thank you for watching.